frantic rescue caught on camera 4 divers missing for hours, found by the Coast Guard nearly 50 miles off the Carolina coast. Then, the emotional reunion.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight in Maui, you can add a sense of abandonment to the cascade of emotions sweeping over devastated communities as survivors and residents learn more about warning sirens that never sounded, evacuations that never came, hydrants that nearly ran dry, and what may have been underestimations of the risk the island faced that day. Tonight, anger rising over why more wasn't done to protect communities from the rampaging fire. And now, after days of uncertainty about where they will live, so many are just anxious to get home, to whatever home looks like. The mounting frustrations compounded by a steadily climbing number of those lost forever. A number that began this day at 96, but as we are reminded grimly each day, will and does go higher. Our team remains on the ground in Maui. Tom Yamas begins our coverage.
No. Oh, dang, that's hot.
Tonight, the deadliest wildfire in our nation's history is under investigation, and the questions are mounting. The horror in Lahaina spread through streets, incinerated cars, and forced people to flee into the ocean.
No, not like this.
Anger growing because so many were forced to make life or death decisions with no warning.
No, we have to leave.
It's tragic. It probably all could have been avoided, or most of it could have been avoided.
A brush fire near Lahaina was first reported early Tuesday morning, and some evacuations were ordered. But Maui officials thought they had it under control, announcing 100% containment around 9 a.m., possibly giving residents a false sense of security. Only hours later, county officials said the fires flared back up, fueled by strong winds, burning the town in an out-of-control blaze that barreled toward the ocean. Here's what we do know. Emergency sirens were not activated, according to Hawaii emergency officials. And firefighters called to the scene said some of the fire hydrants had low or even no water pressure.
You ran out of water with the nation's most deadliest wildfire?
Yeah. It was very disheartening.
Ina Kohler and Johnny Verona are firefighters from Lahaina that were there when the wildfire exploded.
People running for their lives, people being carried out, people being rescued, people getting stuck. Power lines were already down before the fire.
They too lost everything.
You could just hear so fast that this is on fire, this is on fire, this is on fire. It's like, how is this spreading so fast?
As the fires burned, the people of Lahaina were surrounded. This video shows people jumping into their condo's pool to escape the flames.
We just kept huddling in different corners, getting away from flying debris, getting away from flames.
The fact that we weren't incinerated is a miracle.
The gut-wrenching search through the charred remains of Lahaina has only just begun.
When folks are shifting through burnt debris and dust is on you, it's not just dust on you, it's our dead.
More than 1,000 residents are still unaccounted for as recovery crews with cadaver dogs go block by block, home by home.
It is extremely hazardous. There are structures that are partially standing that engineers have to clear first to make sure it's safe for the search and rescue teams to go into, make sure it's safe for the dogs to go into.
4 members of Taufa Samisani's family were killed by the fires.
I lost my uncle, Tony, and his wife, and his daughter.
He and his wife attended church just a few miles outside the burn zone as they start to process all they've lost.
You just have to look to the Lord. You just trust in Him. He has a purpose for us.
I'm going to tell you a story about my own self pertaining to my family.
Compounded by a steadily climbing number of those lost forever. A number that began this day at 96, but as we are reminded grimly each day, will and does go higher. Our team remains on the ground in Maui. Tom Yamas begins our coverage.
No.
Before we go into this very much further, in 1983, the devil attacked my family. Of course, it wasn't the first time that the devil had attacked my family. But this was a very noticeable time that he attacked my family to the degree that he not only attacked me, but he attacked various members in the family. I had a cousin at the time that had remarried a second time. He had a child by her, and she had 2 children of her own. He left to go to work, and shortly after they had left to go to work, the hotel that they were staying in at the time caught a fire. It killed her 2 children. It killed one of my cousin's original child, and also killed the child that come from his second wife. There was another child that received such dire burns that he had to stay in Houston Burnt Victim Center for over a year, being patched up, and to this day he still isn't completely healed up from that. But it was so devastating that it basically devastated the whole family. And whenever I say the whole family, I'm talking about the family on her side and the family on his side, because my uncle, which would have been my grandfather's brother, basically they never did get over it. They never did get over that, because it had taken so much toll from the family that they just never did get over it. And of course, Maxie, my cousin, he never did get over it, and that was one of the things that led to his downfall with his drinking. Whenever something like this occurs, it can be so devastating in the people's lives of such of a loss that they will never ever get over it. And the only way, if you are going to get over it and stand a chance towards putting it in behind you, in which you never do completely get over it, is to put God in your heart and let God build and heal up that brokenness that has happened in your life. That way you can go on with your life. But now, after I've explained that to you, times that by several hundred families and friends that are going through similar scenarios right now of what I just got through explaining to you on a much, much bigger scale. I have said before, I'll say again, the ground is heating up from the inside. We know that the Hawaiian Islands was built from volcano activity. They have had recently an active volcano over there, and because of it, it has warmed up the ground. That has caused things to be that much more crispier as far as drying it out. They were still getting dews, they were still getting rains occasionally. They shouldn't have been that dry. But because the heat was evaporating all the moisture, it become very, very crispy. And I personally believe that it was a supernatural act from wickedness that impenetrated their safety security systems and caused so much havoc, especially after they thought that they had it whipped. They thought that they had it whipped, that it come back. And whenever it come back the second time, it come back with a vengeance. And with the winds and all the elements being just right, pertaining to the perfect storm, it turned into a incinerator.
The deadliest wildfire in our nation's history is under investigation, and the questions are mounting. The horror in Lahaina spread through streets, incinerated cars, and forced people to flee to the ocean.
No.
Anger growing because so many were forced to make life or death decisions with no warning.
No, we have to leave.
It's tragic. It probably all could have been avoided, or most of it could have been avoided.
A brush fire near Lahaina was first reported early Tuesday morning.
Now you keep in mind that we grieve over the dead. We grieve over the dead. But there was so many more lives that didn't die, that got extreme burns. And some of them will be just like my cousin that will never, I mean, you can have skin graft after skin graft after skin graft after skin graft, and you're still never going to fully recover from a burn. There's not no telling how many hospitals, because when it first happened, they was overwhelmed. It ain't no telling how many injured that this is going to take a part of. And that's physically speaking. That ain't emotionally speaking. This is something that fits under the same category as either a flood or a hurricane or a volcano going off and causing total destruction on a apocalyptic, catastrophic level.
Evacuations were ordered, but Maui officials thought they had it under control, announcing 100% containment around 9 a.m., possibly giving residents a false sense of security. Only hours later, county officials said the fires flared back up, fueled by strong winds, burning the town in an out-of-control blaze that barreled toward the ocean. Here's what we do know. Emergency sirens were not activated, according to Hawaii emergency officials. And firefighters called to the scene said some of the fire hydrants had low or even no water pressure.
And you would think, because they have some of the best technology over there pertaining to their warning system, pertaining to tsunamis, and being that close to North Korea, you would think that would be one of the first things that they would have been able to have been proud of, is how many lives were saved because of their emergency system. I'm telling you, we're dealing with stuff that goes beyond our capability of understanding how powerful that this entity truly is coming down, just as the Bible talks about, in great wrath, because it knoweth its time is short.
Water pressure.
You ran out of water with the nation's most deadliest wildfire?
Yeah. It was very disheartening.
Ina Kohler and Johnny Verona are firefighters from Lahaina that were there when the wildfire exploded.
People running for their lives, people being carried out, people being rescued, people getting stuck. Power lines were already down before the fire.
They too lost everything.
You could just hear so fast that this is on fire, this is on fire, this is on fire. It's like, how is this spreading so fast?
As the fires burned, the people of Lahaina were surrounded. This video shows people jumping into their condo's pool to escape the flames.
We just kept huddling in different corners, getting away from flying debris, getting away from flames.
The fact that we weren't incinerated is a miracle.
The gut-wrenching search through the charred remains of Lahaina has only just begun.
When folks are shifting through burnt debris and dust is on you, it's not just dust on you, it's our dead.
More than 1,000 residents are still unaccounted for as recovery crews with cadaver dogs go block by block.
What did he just say? 1,000?
It's not just dust on you, it's our dead.
More than 1,000 residents are still unaccounted for.
More than 1,000 residents. If there's ever been a time that we needed to pay close attention to our planet, to Mother Nature, and to ourselves, if we cannot pick up on the signals that Mother Nature is throwing at us, then maybe we don't deserve to live on planet Earth. Maybe we have gone over the precipice or the Rubicon to the point that we can't reverse this. And the sad thing about it is water, wind, fire, plagues, war, commotions, distress upon nations, all these was given out by Jesus Christ towards giving advisories of what was going to occur in the final and last days. And to even stretch it even further, it goes on to say that as you shall see the days approaching, indicating that you will tangibly be able to see the days approaching, that no flesh will be saved, but for the elect's sake whom he has chosen, those days would be shortened. And I know this is not a positive message, but I hope those that does listen to this will understand that this is a true message. This is a message of reality, not fear-mongering, not because I'm trying to make money off of these messages that I'm putting out to the public, but I'm trying to warn the public ahead of time and telling them, prepare, prepare, prepare. Kind of like the watchman on the wall. Get ready, get ready, get ready. And I was demonized and dehumanized right here in my own community because of me trying to warn the people. I was charged with falsifying files that had terrorist implications. I had people misunderstand my message pertaining to electrical disturbances. I had people misunderstand my message pertaining to a bloody road ahead. And I could go on and on and on how society was trying to take something that was meant to be good and turn it into something that was what that they wanted to turn it into, which was in a monstrous type form. They wanted to turn me into a monster because I was trying to help them. That's how bad society has gotten twisted and turned around. It is so sad. In the year 2023, here in the continental United States, it is so, so sad in what we're witnessing on a day-to-day, everyday level. And if it's not happening here in the continental United States, it's happening somewhere else on the other 6 different continents.
Accounted for as recovery crews with cadaver dogs go block by block, home by home.
It is extremely hazardous.
And in some cases, a cadaver dog is going to have difficulty in recognizing human remains, especially if it rains a time or two on all them ashes. You're basically going to have forensic science in there to determine on whether or not you got human remains, or maybe it's an animal that got caught in the fire. Maybe it was a dog or a large cat or something. I mean, there's going to be a heavy death toll in this, and they're not saying this yet, but I'm telling you right now, if they've got 1,000 people that's basically unaccounted for, because the Hawaiian people over there work very, very closely in a community type sense in making sure that everybody knows what to do, when to do it. That's the reason why that they have such of a strong security system over there pertaining to giving out warnings of a tsunami. That way they can all go inland and hopefully they'll be able to save themselves. So whenever you live on an island, you have to work as a team. And to think that they've got over 1,000 people that they still don't know where they are. I'm sure some of them people will show up, but you're talking about a big number, 1,000. Let's say that even 100 of them showed up. You're still looking at 7, 8, maybe 900 people that's gone just within a matter of seconds, minutes. I seen one thing, somebody had documented it where they was driving and it was bumper to bumper. They was trying to get out of the way, and the heat was coming in behind them to the point that they was actually jumping out of the automobiles while the automobiles were still running down the road, while they was trying to escape and head to the water and jump off into the ocean. Now, friends, whenever you are witnessing this, just like what happened in the first big fire out west, out in California, and then they had another one in Colorado where they basically almost lost 1,000 structures, and that was right around Christmas time about 4 or 5 years ago. Whenever you're seeing this again and again and again, regardless whether it's coming in the form of fire or coming in the form of wind or coming in the form of hail or coming in the form of a hurricane or tornadoes, whenever you're seeing this, it's time to recognize the signs. It's time to pay attention to what the meaning is supposed to be getting out there to the people. It's a message. And if you can't listen to the messengers coming from either the human source or the supernatural source, then odds are you're probably either already doomed or you just don't care to begin with. Maybe you're incapable of understanding these things. But people such as Al Gore and other people, as well as myself, have been trying to desperately put out these warnings again and again and again that the world is warming up, the world is warming up. And it was as if everybody was spellbound, that was dead set that, oh no, that's just a big imagination. As a matter of fact, I got off a long telephone call today with one of my buddies that lives up in Minnesota, and I guess I hurt his feelings because I was so passionate about the way that I understand the physics of everything, and he's got his way of understanding the physics of everything, and he thinks instead of the world getting hotter, it's getting colder. He thinks instead of the ice diminishing up on the North Pole and the South Pole, that it's actually building. He's got the exact opposite frame of mind towards all this in comparison to what I'm talking about. And then whenever I do bring up stuff like, well, how do you explain the Bible whenever it says that as you shall see the days approaching, no flesh shall be saved? Oh, that's above my pay grade. I ain't going to think about that. I ain't going to have to worry about that. I go, well, you must not have no children or no grandchildren. No, it ain't that. I just don't have to think about stuff like that. Besides that, he said oil is manufactured from the earth because of all the pressure of all the rock. And according to him, this oil miraculously comes out of these rocks. And it's a non-flowing event that it will last forever, according to him. He said it ain't got nothing to do with animals dying. It ain't got nothing to do with the vegetation dying of thousands of years. And then I asked him, I go, well, how can you explain then, how come whenever leaves in the fall on the highways become super slick to the degree that it can cause an accident pertaining to automobiles? Once more, he deviated from the answer and went to something else. Some of these people that are climate deniers, just like some of these people that are election deniers, people like me and Al Gore and everybody else can talk to them until we're blue in the face. They can watch footage that what you just got through seeing, some of the most horrifying events that in reality America has never seen. Not this severe, not this much that we know of. I mean, there's been bad events pertaining to hurricanes that just come out of nowhere that we didn't have no warning on. But then again, we didn't have no warning pertaining to Pearl Harbor and lost about 3,000 people. How come their communications all failed at one time? And we're talking about the Army. We're talking about a group of people that had some of the most sophisticated equipment at the time to be able to see a bird flying in the sky, much less an airplane. How come all that stuff failed all at once, and here come all these airplanes? I'm telling you, we're dealing with a supernatural, evil, demonic force. These people thought that they had this thing beat, and then it come back alive, and the dragon or the monster stuck its head out and consumed a big portion of that island.
Structures that are partially standing that engineers have to clear first to make sure it's safe for the search and rescue teams to go into, make sure it's safe for the dogs to go into.
4 members of Taufa Samisani's family were killed by the fires.
I lost my uncle, Tony, and his wife, and his daughter.
See, 4 members. I mean, if you don't have strong faith in God, you're not, or let me put it this way, you're going to have difficulty in recuperating and recovering from a loss like that. It's one thing to lose one family member. It's one thing to lose 2 family members. But you're talking about some of these families that's going to lose 4 or 5 people, basically a whole generation, their genealogy basically gone, their whole bloodline gone.
He and his wife attended church just a few miles outside the burn zone as they start to process all they've lost.
You just have to look to the Lord. You just trust in Him. He has a purpose for us.
And Tom, on top of all this, I know folks are paying close attention to another storm churning in the Pacific.
Yeah, it's the last thing Hawaii needs right now, but Hurricane Fernanda is headed towards this chain of islands. The chief of police here in Maui tells me they are monitoring this storm. They are worried about it, but according to our weather team, it's just sent me a note right now. It is forecast to weaken by the time it comes near Hawaii. It is not expected to have strong winds or heavy rains. A bit of good news for Hawaii, which really needs it right now, Lester.
It sure does. Tom, thank you. With the investigation of the fires underway, many are turning to the recovery. Housing a top priority, and there is concern about toxic fumes and debris. Miguel Almaguer has had rare access inside Lahaina, and Miguel, not all residents are getting back into the burn zone.
Lester, residents who live outside of the burn zone are being allowed back into the area, but for those who live in the heart of Lahaina, the community you see behind me, they're not allowed to come back just yet. FEMA is in there, and it's unclear when their work will be done.
As the smoke rises and the sorrow sets in, tonight this charred, desolate moonscape is the only hope and home many have left.
It's closed, nobody can go in.
But the main highway into Lahaina is shut down, and the perilous cliffside back road is the sole way in.
The worst thing about a catastrophe like this is the children. It affects them so severely. You've displaced their whole life. They no longer got their video games. They no longer have their animals. They no longer have their stuffed teddy bears. It just absolutely turns their world upside down, and you're going to have so many different emotions. Some people are going to be so blisterly angered about this, especially since they're identifying that the electric company did not take these things on a much more serious level to the degree of shutting down the grid. Once they identified that those winds had gotten up that strong, and once they identified that there was a fire, you know, that's one of the people out in California that got sued for billions of dollars because of that main fire out there, is because they did not recognize the signs. They wasn't listening. So sad. So sad. Of course, this is what the Bible says. The Bible says that in the last days we will see signs in the heavens and signs upon the earth such as we've never ever seen before in the last days, indicating that we are truly living in the final last days, especially in what humanity is doing to the planet and doing to each other.
The route they're trying to make us take is a dangerous route, even on a good day.
For so many residents, the road to recovery has hit a maze of blockades. Nearly a week after the fires, most still can't survey the damage to see what's been lost or spared.
The randomness of this wildfire is evident in this neighborhood. There are homes and apartments that are still standing, but just across the street here, total destruction. For those that want to return and rebuild, that process is going to take years.
We get no information, and to be honest, this is a level of incompetence I've not witnessed before here.
As frustration mounts, so do concerns over a toxic wasteland. Amid the grim search for bodies, authorities fear cancer-causing chemicals like asbestos and benzene are floating in the air and have melted into the ground.
I don't know if it's ever going to be livable again. I don't know if we're going to... I mean, what's all this is like? It looks still smoldering. It's toxic, hazardous.
Even boiled water in the surrounding area is unsafe to drink.
How comfortable are you having your family live here now?
I'm not comfortable.
With large crowds and seemingly endless lines waiting for essential services just outside the burn zone, Lahaina is a tale of two cities.
Single file, guys, single file.
There are the thousands who still need help, and the many who are still looking for loved ones.
Thousands. Thousands.
As the death toll rises, authorities have found many victims in residential neighborhoods, but they still need to go to office and commercial buildings. That process is going to take days.
As the heartbreak stretches as far as the devastation.
Lahaina is gone. It doesn't exist anymore as far as the old town is concerned.
It takes a toll on you emotionally, mentally, and then, of course, physically.
tonight there is deepening worry about what is gone and what's been left behind. An island paradise and a still unfolding disaster. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Lahaina, Maui.
I mean, just look what happened to America of 9/11. That killed almost 3,000 people. That infected so many people breathing all those toxic fumes and et cetera, that now people are feeling the effects of even to this day. Once more, the Bible had given out those indications of the last days, that whenever you shall see these things starting to occur, to prepare. Get your heart and your life right with God. Because at any given moment, at any given day, anything, and I do mean anything, could erupt into a total disastrous catastrophe. So if you don't have your heart and your life, your soul, right with God, now's the time to do it, my friends. Because we're seeing these events only get worse and worse and worse. And even Jesus said that it would be as a woman traveling with a child, that as a woman is fixing to give birth, her pains will become even harsher towards her delivery, and they'll become closer together. Every time she has a pain, that was every 7 minutes, now they'll be every 6 minutes, and go from 6 minutes to every 5 minutes, to every 5 minutes, to every 4 minutes. Same way with the birth pains of what we're seeing right now globally all over the planet. If there's ever been a time, it's now to make proper preparations. Good luck to all of us as we end this program by saying our hearts goes out to these poor people and what they're going through right now. That I don't really even have proper words to express how horrifyingly grievous that this truly is. That this fits under the terminology of a war. It would be the same thing if you was in Ukraine and all of a sudden you had some crazy man that decided that he was going to blow up the freaking half of the world over there. This would be on the same level of a major category 4 or 5 hurricane, or a tornado, or a flood. These catastrophics, these apocalyptic catastrophics, we're seeing unfold in my lifetime like I would have never, ever begin to imagine. All the fires up in Canada this year. All the flooding in Pakistan that dismembered or took out about 10 million people. I don't know how many thousands that it drowned, but it was so bad over there that they couldn't even find a place to bury their dead. And we've seen flooding after flooding after flooding after flooding that has ravaged areas that have really never gotten water. And then we're seeing areas that did get water don't get no water. These imbalances humanity has caused. And these are not acts of God. These are the aftermaths of mankind in what that we have done that is causing this to occur. And if we're not smart enough to identify that, then either we're incapable of identifying this, or we just don't care to identify these things. God bless and shalom.